Hello everybody, my name is Bricky. I want to show off a little bit of Mafia 3 gameplay today. Now, just recently I had the privilege to be flown out to San Francisco by 2K, the publishers of the game, to go ahead and do a little bit of a play test for the game itself. Now, honestly, I've never actually been flown out anywhere, which I thought was actually really kind of cool. You know, that kind of happens a lot more, I think, as you get into like a bigger YouTube scene. But that's the first time I've ever actually been invited to go do like a play test. That was really damn awesome. So that is my full disclosure, is that they did pay for the flight and the hotel. They didn't pay me anything to, like, make this video, but they did for, that kind of thing. I obviously have to disclose that for the video, yada, yada, yada.
I toss the gauntlet before the feet of the northern tyrant and say, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. The mixing of the races is a nation, and those who
But what I wanted to specifically talk about was the fact that when they invited me out, they basically put me in like a theater room with a bunch of other streamers and YouTubers and gave us like 5 hours with the game. Just play and do what we want. Now, Mafia is a game series I've never actually played before. I've just never played the games. I've heard about the second one. I know a lot of people like the second one, but I've never actually played the game before. So I was going into this play test with completely 100% just clear mind, like I've never played this game before, I don't know what it's like, I've heard of it sometimes, but I've never actually given it a shot, so I had like a full 100% like unbiased thought when I started playing this game. And this video is dedicated to me telling you basically my thoughts about it, did I like it, did I not like it, the good, the bad, all that kind of stuff, so that's what I'm gonna do. In the background you obviously have Mafia 3 gameplay, nothing that has any major story spoilers or anything, so if you're worried about story, you're totally fine to go ahead and keep watching. Any story spoiler in this thing is just extremely small or marginal or, won't be understood until you actually play the game, so it should be perfectly fine. So the background of the story is that in Mafia 3 you play as a guy named Lincoln Clay. He's a black Vietnam War veteran, and the time period is like 1968, 1969. So he just came back from Vietnam, and he's back with his family and everything like that. He and all of his family is kind of into the whole mob scene. Lots of things go on, spoilers I can't mention, and now here you are, you're building your mafia, your mob, you're taking over other gangs, you're fighting other gangs, all that kind of shit. There is a very specific, understandable goal in the game that you're trying to reach, but I can't tell you what that goal is for fear of spoiling the game. So basically what they gave me was the first 2 hours of the game. They gave me like the first 2 acts, and they let me play it, but I couldn't record any of it. I can't talk about it, but they let me play the first 2 acts and basically like let me do it so I can get my little bit of a story context so I know what's happening and what's going on. And then they cut out a big chunk in the middle of the game and put me to a specific spot that I can do a lot of interesting stuff. I can go around and do all these different kinds of objectives and stuff like that without risking major story spoilers. So, in my opinion, how was the game? Pretty damn good, honestly. I actually really enjoyed myself. I had a blast playing this game. Now, like I said, I've not played Mafia 2 or anything like that, so I don't know how many similarities this game has with the last game or not, but I'm basically just going to tell you what I thought about it coming from someone who's never played Mafia before. First things first, the number one most important thing I want to mention is the cutscenes, voice acting, characters, all that kind of stuff. Motion capture is absolutely phenomenal.
Those two men are Lamont Harris and Trey McCall. They were killed by a man named Hollis Dupree.
Yeah, I heard he gunned them down when they showed up to his house asking for help.
Hollis claims he was in self-defense, said he thought they were there to kill him. Cornelius is the judge that's presiding over the trial.
So killing him might kick up a lot of noise.
Cornelius is an entitled southern asshole. Killing him is gonna do a lot more than kick up some noise. Hopefully, it'll send a message that is long past the time that those cocksuckers went extinct.
The first 2 hours of the game is very cutscene heavy, almost a little bit too much cutscene heavy, but every time a cutscene came on, I was super just floored by the extensive work put into the motion capture. The graphics are amazing. The voice acting and characters you buy that these people are all like friends or family, and the voice acting is just so well done. That is the number one thing I must praise the most, is the voice acting and motion capture is just completely absurdly good. This includes your main character too. Lincoln Clay is not the most like crazy interesting character, but he's not like some flat slate like Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs. He actually has decent character into him. You know his objective, you understand the guy, and he's well voice acting. Just he's a very good main character. Characters, voice acting, story, that stuff so far is very good from what I've seen. Of course, I've only seen so much of the game, but from my time playing, that stuff is all just phenomenally well done. I would have to draw a lot of similarities to how the game plays gameplay-wise to Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, maybe it's because GTA 5 is like the most prominent open world style game like this currently, or whatever reason that might be, but it does seem like this game borrows a lot from the GTA 5 formula, but it definitely has its own kind of spiel to it. It's not like a GTA 5 sandbox open world game, it's a story-driven open world game. So I wasn't able to see anything like, you know, go play tennis, go play golf. There weren't a whole lot of very minimal activities like that. It was mainly just story mission, side mission, and maybe some small stuff in between, but really it wasn't meant to just kind of fuck around the entire place. You had your story, you had your objective, and that was the whole point of the open world, was to do that story and objective, not to just kind of fuck around like a sandbox. Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. It's not necessarily a good thing either. It's just interesting seeing like this big open world and stuff like that with only certain aspects of it being used, which at some point it works because the story is very expansive, there's a lot to do. But sometimes when you like finish the story stuff, there's only like a couple of things you got to do left. You kind of thinking like, well, what if I don't want to do those? Well, your options are pretty damn limited. However, the open world handles pretty well. NPCs and stuff like that will still do their silly ass thing that most open world games do. But most of the time, it seems like it looks pretty well. It's very dense, lots of people, like lots of foot traffic, lots of cars. It's a very densely populated, interesting open world. You like, I remember I walked past, or drove past a little seminar of a bunch of women doing like a women's rights kind of protest in the middle of a park, and it was just kind of like neat, you know. I had nothing to do with them, but it was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Gameplay in this game is also very interesting, quite hard actually too. I was playing on normal difficulty instead of easy or hard, but I died a lot. I died a fuckload in this game. You know, enemies aren't like super pinpoint accurate, but they're pretty accurate, and they do a lot of damage. You know, you really have to be kind of tactical about how you approach a situation. Now, you can't really go in guns blazing very often. Taking cover is extremely important in this game. A lot of times, most situations you do can be solved with stealth, and the stealth mechanics in this game are fun, but the AI is really dumb, like really dumb. Or sometimes they're way too smart. It's one of those kind of back and forth things where they obviously should have seen this happen, or sometimes they saw it from like a mile away and you're like, what, how? It's not like too much of a nuisance. I very rarely ever got caught by stuff like that. And when I did, I generally just started shooting them with like guns blazing. And so long as I was smart and didn't just like walk out of cover, I was okay. But a lot of times I did like a stealth thing and they enemies would just like walk right past me and not even notice me. And it's like, oh, okay. However, gunplay feels excellent. The gun sounds specifically are great. There's a sniper rifle I got to use, like a 4-shot bolt action. It was the most satisfying sniper rifle sound effects I've ever heard. The sound of the sniper was so good, and like the rechambering of bullets didn't really have that kind of like clink clink sound that we always hear in games. It had like kind of the little like swoosh kind of sound. I'm being very silly right now, but it was a much more realistic sounding reload. I don't know, it's kind of like stuck with me. The gunplay is very good in the game. It's well done. The enemies have like, sometimes they have a lot of health, sometimes they don't have a lot of health depending on who you're fighting. Headshots, pretty much one shot everyone regardless, which is kind of nice to see that. Enemies are pretty damn relentless, and they are pretty strong, you know. They'll definitely charge you out of cover, and if you reload, sometimes you run out of ammo, they'll hear that and start bum rushing you. I thought it was kind of a cool idea. They'll throw grenades at you and things like that, usual kind of stuff. But the gunplay really did feel quite satisfying. You know, if I was like doing stealth mode with a silenced pistol, I'd headshot some guy leaning on a wall, and then, you know, his body would just kind of ragdoll immediately, and then he'd kind of like slunch over to the ground. There's a big like blood stain behind him. It looked realistic, kind of, and it was pretty damn neat. One of the small things I really liked was brutal executions. If you use I was playing on a PS4, so it was circle. If you use circle, you attack somebody with like a melee attack. But if you press and hold it, if you get in a certain area, you do a brutal execution. So you one-shot the guy, obviously. But it's like you punch them in the face and you stab them in the eye with your knife, or you just kind of like slice their throats and you kind of break their neck or something like that. It's like kind of brutal, crazy stuff, and it's kind of satisfying when you're fighting someone you really, really dislike. Which comes to another thing, which is kind of the setting. The setting is 1968, so there's a lot of like Rolling Stones and things like that, which is super awesome. But the main thing that is most obvious is you play as a black Vietnam War veteran. 68 was a very racist time. It was very racist. And they don't hold any bars. This game is extremely racist for the time period. And it's almost, I don't want to say refreshing, but it's impressive because they really took the era, because the era is not very, it's the 60s, it's not good. They took that era and they really kind of created it again rather impressively. Now, I mean, kind of strange for me how to say this, but a good example was I was walking past in an area, a very rich white area. And when I walked past, like, women on the street, they would pull their purses towards them. Now, obviously that's really fucking racist, but that's what people did back in the day. And it was a very small detail I was actually kind of impressed with. Now, they dropped, like, I don't like saying this, but they dropped the N-word, like, a good 50 times in my 5-hour playthrough. They said it a lot. And it kind of makes you happier, because then you get a chance to go, like, kill them guys who do that. But it's not, like, beating you over the head with its racist ideas most of the time. Mainly, it's just, like, this is what the time period was. It was like this back then. And that's understandable for the situation, people don't treat you well. And so it's just kind of an interesting dynamic to really go all out with this kind of era. It kind of gives the game a little bit of balls, honestly, and I kind of respect that. Also, and something else that wasn't necessarily the story or anything, driving. Driving feels interesting. It's not as floaty. It's a little bit more grounded than Watch Dogs, but it's not as tanky as GTA. Your car, if you hit something, you hit something. Like, if you hit another car, you smash in that car, and your car is not liking that. Like, you hurt your car, and you probably hurt yourself at the same time. The cars are very more grounded, and it feels more realistic when you drive in Mafia. Like, when you do a swerve or something around the corner, you really have to, like, drift king this thing. You can't just instantly turn on a dime. The driving felt very good. It took a little bit of time to get used to because I was used to like GTA and stuff like that where your cars are basically all tanks. But in this game, cars are not very much tanks at all. They die or break or whatever very quickly if you keep smacking into shit. Now, if you were me and you're just like good at riding in between cars and things like that, you're totally fine. And you don't have to worry about anything. But most of the time, if you hit something and you gotta like back up, recover, and work with that. It's not a bad thing, it's just something you gotta get used to. Speaking of cops in this game are annoying. Wow, they're annoying. Holy shit, they are a pain in the ass. They are not only, like, faster than almost every car. Like, the cop cars are so speedy. But if you do have a car that's faster than their car, they tend to shoot out your tires. In this game, when you die so fast and you take so much damage, you can't, like, 1v1,000,000 the cops like you could in GTA. No. If you jump out and there are 4 cops there trying to shoot you, you're dead. You are a goner. The cops in this game, you should just either avoid or try running. Never fight them. They are very, very powerful. And this kind of ties into one of the smaller gripes I have with the game, which is the witness system. Now, let's say I shoot someone on the street. Some other person on the street is going to be like, holy shit, he just shot him, and then run to the phone, and it'll give you a notification saying, this witness is calling the cops. Now, you can go to that witness and, like, shoot them, and stop them from calling the cops. But then another witness will probably see them and be like, whoa, he just shot that guy, and then go to call the cops. So it becomes this trail, this line of witnesses who you keep trying to kill or something or whatever you want to do to stop the cops from being called, and the body count can go up to like the 15s. It kind of becomes a little bit of an issue. It's like a real nuisance sometimes. You can't just drive on the street and like run over 19 people. You accidentally bump into one person and you've got a problem. Now, one of the things I really liked about the system is the kind of associate system. Now, I don't believe this is a spoiler. I looked this up and I was able to find out this information immediately, so I'm pretty sure it's public knowledge. But you have like mob associates, One of them is a guy named Vito. Vito is the main character from Mafia 2. He's an associate of yours, along with another Irish gentleman and another lady. And they all have cool things they can do to go ahead and help you out. You can call up your associates. For instance, this one lady can supply me with like a little truck that goes ahead and comes up and is like, that's like your weapons shop, is this little truck. Or the Irish guy provides you with cars and things like that. Vito is my personal favorite. He goes ahead and you can call his muscle. A bunch of like really crazy Italian cousins with shotguns to fight with you, you know? And it's kind of funny because like, you know, you look behind a rock and they just appear randomly. It's just out behind the rock. You're like, well, there they are. But it's a bunch of dudes, you know, Vito's cousins with like the old 50s style hats with shotguns, just absolutely obliterating people as you're back up in a sticky situation. It's pretty fun. And, you know, as you go through the game, you can like give these people territory, and each of your associates can go ahead and like give you more upgrades depending on what, you know, their skill tree is. It's a really neat system depending on like what area you try to like fix, basically. Honestly, the game has a lot of really interesting systems in it. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. The driving is more grounded and interesting. The gunplay is fantastic and quite difficult. A real, like, difficult challenge. Like, an honestly difficult challenge. But it's still, like, fun. It's rewarding, you know? It's rewarding when you do a good job. Stealth gameplay is alright. The NPCs are pretty dumb sometimes, or they're a little bit too smart, depending on, you know, what's going on, actually. The story and the cutscenes and the voice acting and stuff are par none. They are excellent, so well done. I cannot praise that enough. It's just a really good story for what's going on right there. Characters are good. Your character is pretty good. Honestly, I really did enjoy the game. It had its gripes. I had a few visual and audio bugs occasionally, but nothing that really like soured my enjoyment for the game. There is fair share of issues, but honestly, I'm probably gonna pick the game up. It's pretty damn neat, and it looks like a lot of fun. Well, it is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I just obviously didn't get to play the whole game, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I wanted to go ahead and express my opinion on the game and everything like that in this video. I hope you enjoyed. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, 2K flew me out and paid for the hotel and everything to let me playtest this game, so there's all the disclosure. I do have another thing on BioShock The Collection, which is also something I also played for tomorrow's video, but regardless, my name is Bricky Orchidate. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope maybe you learned something from this video regarding the game, or maybe I helped you decide if you're going to purchase it or not going to purchase it, or whatever it might be. Alright, hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.
You do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't kill me.
But what I want is for you to die.